It was a terrible night. And we had our record defeat last year, July, and it's less than a year since that. And people have not forgiven us yet. We've got to work hard to rebuild trust and get back. What normally happens is you get a new government in, it's given a honeymoon. Even if you didn't vote for a new Labour government, you kind of give it a chance, don't you? You hope it's going to do something. And the first thing it did was attack your nan and take away the winter fuel payment. It's nearly 1 million people, of the very poorest people who are eligible for pension credit but don't claim it for whatever reason. We've all tried over the years and we'll keep trying to get them to claim it. Those people losing out. The farmers, we've got farmers now literally looking at suicide in order to avoid the impact of the family farm tax. Now, whoever voted Labour in this audience, none of you voted for that. None of you voted to see stamp duty go up on first-time buyers or have this jobs tax come in, which is absolutely destructive of business. And it's worth remembering, notwithstanding our unpopularity, that we were the fastest-growing nation in the whole G7 when we left power. Inflation was back to 2%.
So why did more people vote for you on Thursday, then?
4 million more people were in work.
OK, well, so why didn't people vote for you,
It's less than a year.
If you think the Labour's doing so badly, why don't they think, let's go back to Conservatives, then?
As the audience is making clear, the Labour is doing very badly. But the fact that they came in as one of the...
No, I'm asking about the Conservatives.
Exactly,
You're here representing Conservatives. If you think Labour are doing so badly, why didn't more people turn to you on Thursday?
Well, I think that it's, as the lady in red said, it's going to undermine trust in the whole political system. Because throughout the Conservatives were promised change by Labour. That immediately went sour until there's a sort of feeling of a plague on all your houses. And I think that's part of where we're at. And we've got a lot of work to do to rebuild trust with you.
And do you take any responsibility for that? Boris Johnson, Liz Truss?
Well, absolutely. We own that. We own that defeat. We lost the confidence of the people. And if you're a democratic nation, that's what you have to do. So we have to say sorry for that. And we have to work hard to build it up. But in answer to Paul's question, what I don't think we need, and the audience is already starting to focus on the questions now for Richard, what exactly are you going to do? How are you going to do this? Because it's all very well criticising, but we want to know what your programme for government is. And I'm confident we'll see if Richard and Nigel and the merry crew can come forward and persuade you over the next 4 years, well, fine. But I think it's more likely than not they don't have an answer to the how. They don't really know how they can make lives better. And therefore, it's incumbent on the Conservatives under Kemi Badenoch to rebuild trust with you, make our case to you and put this country back on a steady position again, because Labour have let everyone down
to increase green energy. You now describe it as madness. So which is it?
No, what I describe as madness is Labour's policy on it. They brought forward from 2035 to 2030 the sort of clean power proposal, which, as I was the person responsible for it, I can say it literally can't be done.
So it's just the 5 years. Is that literally all the differences?
That is one of the many ways. What you also have to do is marry the economics. We did transform it, because it's little known that Labour's the inheritance we had from Labour in 2010 was less than 7% of our electricity was clean energy, renewables. By the time we left power, it was nearly 50%. We'd taken homes from only 12% being properly insulated to over half.
So what are you saying is madness now?
What is madness now is that you have to, for instance, we saw the madness of Labour's policies at the moment. Yesterday encapsulated it all. We saw 250 job losses in oil and gas. Our biggest oil and gas producer is Harbour Energy. And they've sacked a quarter of their onshore workforce yesterday. And we are going to be importing oil and gas instead of producing it here, because Labour say we'll have no licences in the North Sea. That is crazy. We also saw yesterday that the biggest offshore wind farm in the world, which I worked on as a minister, Hornsea 4, we had 1, 2, 3, as we built it out, led the world. Hornsea 4, under Labour, guess what? Cancelled, because it's no longer viable under Labour. So they can't do renewable energy either. And also yesterday, but less reported, was the future technologies, carbon capture and storage, which is so vital to this area. We've got the Viking project, which is a big store just off the Humber. Harbour have also said they're reviewing the staffing of that because Labour have not come forward with the plans and proposals in time. So they're stymieing us on oil and gas, they're not bringing forward the renewable energy, and they're easing closing down the development of the vital industries for the future. They've made a horrible mess of it, and that's why I said when we were in power that the biggest enemy to the delivery of net zero, because, like Callum, I believe it is a big generational issue, but we've got to get it right economically as well as environmentally.
Right.
Otherwise, the rest of the world will never follow us, and our own policy will be fruitless if the rest of the world doesn't see us as a success in delivery.
Deal with certain aspects to it, and of course there was the India trade deal earlier this week as well. Is it a victory for the government, Graham?
Well, we don't know all the details yet. What it doesn't appear to be is a full trade deal. As I said, a sort of diet Coke rather than the original deal. And if it's not a full trade deal, then there are legality questions to get into the technicalities around that. But put crudely, we've got the man who authored The Art of the Deal, who basically said what you do is you go with such an extraordinarily extreme negotiating position that when you become still extreme but less extreme later, the other side will just cave into you. And we've got a deal where basically our tariffs on US imports have gone down. I actually welcome that. I want lower taxes on products that people want to buy. And the tariffs on UK products going into the US has gone up. That's the reality compared to where we were before. So it's not a triumph, but I do think, given where we're at with Donald Trump and given the importance of, for instance, the car industry, that it was important to engage and seek the best deal we could. The India deal, I think...
Actually, just before you get on to the India deal, Kemi Badenoch said tonight, this deal is not historic, we've just been shafted. It sounds to me like you feel a bit more positive about it than that.
Well, we have been... I was saying, basically, the tariffs... we've cut our tariffs on US imports, and they've raised their tariffs on us. Now, you don't exactly want to celebrate that as a great triumph.
I mean, it's very strong language from Kemi Badenoch. We've been shafted by the US president. Do you echo that? Would you use that language?
I don't think it's a great deal.
No is the answer.
And the truth is that's what he does. He seeks to shaft people. That's his business career, isn't it? It's what he's done, Donald Trump. He is, the way he's done it, he seeks to extort from people. And that's what he's done. He's the classic kind of bully, and he's the worst face of capitalism. And he's taken that in to the most powerful country in the world. I leave it to others to judge as to... It's not a great deal, so we have been shafted. Whether we've been less shafted than we would have been if we hadn't engaged in the way that we have, time will tell. And we don't know all the details yet. We don't know the legalities around it. And this isn't even the final deal. We're talking about that happening over the coming year. We negotiate a full one. So it's pretty hard to be too definitive today, apart from to say, and Kemi's quite right, to look at it and go, well, on the face of it, this isn't a great deal for us. But India, 90% of that deal was negotiated, and from when I was in the department, which was many years ago as a trade minister, and we were working on it, big and complex with this emerging economy of India, and 90% of that work was done before the election. But I congratulate James and his colleagues for getting it over the line. I think it will be good for us to be lowering tariffs, and we'll see Scotch whisky with halved tariffs and then reducing after that. It's the biggest whisky market in the whole world. So I want to see many more people in India enjoying Scotch, and many more people in this country being able to be employed by the people who make it. What's bad news for farmers is bioethanol, because we have the Vivergo factory, 200 jobs here in Hull, and we're now going to have tariff-free bioethanol coming in, putting out of business that business. That's the risk, and that's 1 million tonnes of grain which comes from British farmers each year, converted into bioethanol that then goes into our fuel in our cars to make it lower carbon. That is going to be displaced by American target. Maybe you could comment on the bioethanol and the impact on the farmers in this area, and indeed the 200 people who work at Vivergo.
Celebrate, because we're still poorer as a country.
Yeah.
I'll come back on that. Just to say that going to the fastest growing parts of the world and doing deals with them for the long term puts us in a better position. We've actually grown since Brexit faster than Germany. So the idea that Europe, it is our biggest partner, but it's fairly sclerotic.
It's
so
in recession. That's the reality.
One of the opportunities for us is to open up with the fast-growing parts of the world. And these deals, which my department used to have to do the calculations on, we're always cautious. Actually, for the long term, we want to be aligned. We want to be looking to the fastest-growing parts of the world, like India.